Hey, Slingers, welcome back to another Wordslinger podcast. I'm glad to have you here. I'm talking to a new friend, Tim Heller. He's an audio guy, and you're going to love this chat. We get into audiobooks, running your business as an entrepreneur, all stuff that can apply directly to you and your business, whatever it happens to be. If you're an author, especially, you're going to want to tune into this, so stick around.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tumlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Welcome to the Wordslinger podcast. Welcome back. If you are a return listener and or viewer, or welcome for the first time. If this is your first time tuning into the show, glad to have you here. I am chatting today, as I said, with a new friend, and I mean that quite literally. We just started kind of touching base and hanging out together a couple of weeks ago. We met... Talking about Tim Heller, by the way, if I hadn't said so already. We met actually through a mutual friend that we both met at this meetup group. There's a kind of networking event that happens at a coffee shop here locally, which we do talk about. Red Horn Coffee and Brewery here it's in the Cedar Park area, which is we both live north of Austin, and what's been interesting, it's I've met several people through this group. I'm glad to start meeting some people that are kind of more in my line of work, in that they're a creative professional. Because a lot of the folks we meet, I don't know, I didn't actually ask Tim about this. I should have. I'll have to ask him next time he and I get together. But the kind of people who I tend to meet at this thing are mostly it's insurance guys or real estate. So when you go to a networking event, it seems like that's, I don't know. I have a long history with these things. When I was in film and TV, when I had my own video production company, I would go to every networking event I could find. And it was always the same thing. Everybody's there handing out their business cards, and they're all trying to drum up business. And you're all doing the same thing. So you're really, it's a terrible place to meet clientele. It just really is. It's just not going to a networking event is not about meeting clients. You should not treat networking that way. It is actually about meeting people for your network so that you can work together and then figure out ways to bring in clients. You're not going to meet your next customer, your next reader, your next, whatever. Your target market is not hanging out at a networking event. That's a free piece of advice. So keep that in mind. You go to networking events to meet people that you can form collaborations with, partnerships with, or just commiserate with. And that's where I think Tim and I have landed. Is we can certainly benefit each other business wise. There's lots of opportunities there, but those are going to come out of they're an outcropping of something else. It's just tough to find people sometimes that you can kind of relate to. I talk about this in the interview a little toward the end. I have a hard time relating to regular people because I'm so enmeshed in this publishing space and the work as a creative. Most people don't work in creative fields, and so they don't necessarily understand what you're talking about when the two of you are commiserating over something, job woes. It's a little difficult for people who have to get up at 4 a.m. and go out to, say, a rock quarry or or something like that. It's difficult for them to relate to somebody who gets up at 4 a.m. because he's had an epiphany about where to take his characters in the next chapter of this book. So, it can get a little tough sometimes to relate to people. And I'm not a finance guy, so I can talk to these people, but I don't always relate to what they're dealing with, talking about either. And there aren't actually a ton of networking or sort of network opportunities when you're chatting with groups like that either. So Anyway, so it's good to have people that are in something, if not directly related to this industry, tangentially related. Love chatting with Tim. I'm kind of getting to know him in slices. I've introduced him to some authors, which we do talk about here in the area, including Johnny Truant, who was on the show last week. David Viergoots, who's been on the show. So if you followed for a while, you know those two guys, and they're crushing it. So that those are good contacts to have. So I'm happy to make the connections there. Anyway, I won't keep you from this interview. This was a good one. I enjoyed it. It went by very quickly. But make sure you stick around for the note at the end. I got some thoughts. I'll probably I'll riff on what we've started here. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy this interview with Tim, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey, it's Kevin Tumlinson here, and I want to talk to you about something that's made a real difference in my work over the years, and that is ProWritingAid. I've been using this for years. It's hands down the best assistive editing tool that I've found. And what I love most is that it works wherever I write. So whether I'm in Scrivener, or Microsoft Word, Substack, or anywhere else, ProWritingAid is right there with me. And unlike other tools, I get control over the kind of suggestions it gives me. So there's no rigid rules. It's just smart, actionable feedback that's tailored to my writing. And the best part is that the team behind ProWritingAid actually cares about independent writers and creators. They're focused on helping individual creators like you and me, not just big enterprise customers. And that is unfortunately becoming a kind of rare thing these days. And that's why I'm proud to support them. So if you're serious about leveling up your writing wherever or however you write, go to ProWritingAid.com and use the code KEVIN20 at checkout for 20% off of your subscription. That's ProWritingAid.com, code KEVIN20. And trust me, you'll be glad you did. I have a new coffee buddy here in the local Austin-ish area. We do you do what I do? Do you tell everybody I live in Austin when in reality you live like
100%?
It's just easier.
Because also where we're at is not even like clear as it's Leander or Cedar Park. It's like the end of our driveway is Cedar Park, but our house is Leander, and no one
do you
cares.
fall on one of those like weird border lines too?
Yes, yeah.
Everything
like our
here
neighborhood is like not technically Williamson County. It's like an independent situation. I didn't realize that when we moved here, but I think I might have accidentally moved out of country in our country.
Oh, yeah. So like where we are is technically a Liberty Hill address. This is going to be absolutely riveting for everybody who has no idea
your
what.
Popcorn ready, friends.
But we're a Liberty Hill address with a Georgetown utilities. We're in a Liberty Hill school district, but we can see the Leander water tower from our street. So I'm not entirely sure what the story is. And for the longest time, anytime you tried to find us on a map like Google Maps or something like that, it was Andola was the I think Andola, I think, which is which isn't even a town. I mean, it's like a cross street out in the middle of the country. We've driven out to where Andola, Texas is, and it's like two dirt roads meeting in the middle of nowhere. But I'm talking to Tim. I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't introduce you at all. Tim Heller, who's you do a lot. You're a voice actor. You're a producer. You have your own little creative business, which you just recently relocated to Austin.
Yeah, relatively recently. Yeah, to the greater Austin area. My wife and I moved down here from New York City after spending a good chunk of years up there, and yeah, it's been we expected to be here for a little bit and carry on out to Los Angeles, but we went to school near here. We've got family nearby, and yeah, we just really liked the change of pace. It's been a really good switch.
I kept meaning to ask you because you had told me that you went to school in San Marcos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not far from here. It's about an hour and a half from where we are, I think.
Traffic on 35 the way it has been, yeah. Used to be 25. minutes.
Used to be
Or
25
San
minutes.
Marcos to
Which is,
downtown.
yeah, that's a lot of one thing you can say consistently about Austin for sure is, traffic is gonna it changes everything. Everything has changed over the past, 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, but you never did tell me. I don't think we've discussed you and I. Like, what was it? What did you major in at San Marcos? What school did you go to in San
Yeah.
Marcos? I can guess, but
I went to Texas State University,
right.
formerly Southwest Texas University. And I decided to go for something wildly practical, musical theater.
Okay.
And yeah, so I went to school there for musical theater, loved the program. Have a close friend who's now one of the heads of voice teaching there, and got super involved with the honors college too, and graduated, I think, with a minor. I think I ended up with a minor in honors studies. But yeah,
Yeah.
killer place to go to school, especially coming from the Chicago area. Having a river you can jump in year round after dance class or workouts is pretty
Right.
clutch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Texas. We got it all. Uh so you do a lot of everything you do is audio. Basically. Do you do anything besides audio? I know you do some voice acting and things like that, but is there any
Yeah, it's all so the VO stuff is the primary kind of bread and butter that pays the bills. And so that's voiceover for video games, animation, commercials, you name it.
yeah.
And then the audiobook production stuff all happened on accident on the side, like about 3 years ago. And then creative consulting stuff has come into from people seeing video work that I had done or stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's definitely not like a video agency situation, but it is creative development. It's growing and developing, and so it's hard to say like this is the one thing that we do, but trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to make it make sense for everybody.
That just seems like the it just seems like the way businesses work now. Sole proprietorships and things. I had my own like video production business for years, but I never could nail down. I would tell people it's video production, but it would do anything. Web
Yeah,
design. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't I it had a I had a real hard time kind of narrowing down. Hard to tell people
yeah,
what you do, you know.
yeah. It's been nice to kind of figure out, oh, I can't do this all by myself,
Yeah.
and bringing in people I trust to help nurture the parts that I don't have time to, or
Yeah.
I'd rather not, and then being able to do a little bit of everything at a pretty decent level is
I think
fun
there's a
plus.
nice parallel there with the way an author business works now,
Yeah,
with what you're doing. I think there's a lot of parallels there. Yeah. Because I mean, it's the same sort of thing. It's authors more frequently now have to have, everyone talks about having to have a platform and having to have reach and that sort of thing. And that's the tricks here are, authors now have to be marketers, they now have to be entertainers,
yeah.
have to engage in social media, that sort of thing. So I think there's some parallels in the way our
I
businesses work.
I agree, and honestly, that's something that after hanging out with you and David and Johnny, I was like, oh, we are all doing the exact same thing, just in
Yeah.
different mediums and targeting different audiences. And um, yeah, it's been a lot of fun just in the couple of coffee hangs that we've had, learning more about the author's side of things. And as I get
Yeah.
deeper into the audiobook production side of things, seeing how similar but also how wildly different things can be, and it's fun. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Since you partially name dropped, you're referring to David Viergoots and Johnny B. Truant, who are both
Yes.
local.
Not meaning to name drop.
That's, whatever. That's the whole show is name dropping. Wordslinger podcast. That's all we do, really. So yeah, so you've kind of cobbled together a business in a way, right? Was
Yeah,
that out of
yeah.
necessity?
Um, Partially, yeah. It's been, I'm coming from the musical theater background and live performance, on camera performance, and I had some health issues with my back and some nerve issues that took that side of things away from me for a long time.
Hmm.
And what ultimately pushed me into the voiceover arena. And so that was really a heavy push out of the nest to figure out how to fly quick,
Yeah.
living in New York City and being like, all right, I need to do something creative. I need to make money. Let's figure this out. And then all of the other parts of the business have sprouted up from saying yes to opportunities presented to me by existing clients or referrals of, audiobooks. I had somebody here in Austin. I went to lunch with them as a new client, and they said, "Hey, we've signed this deal with a major business nonfiction publisher. Would you like to read a bunch of these books?" And I said, "No, thank you." But a lot of my friends are really, really good at it
Yeah.
and love doing it. And I have a lot of really great engineer friends that I could bring into this. And what if I just build a system for y'all? You can white label our services, and then we can kind of move forward together and see how it goes. And now, 3 years later, we have other publishers that we're working with, independent authors, independent publishers. Um, and it's been really fun to really learn how to build a proper business and not have it be like a hellish spreadsheet on my computer anymore, but that there are actual like systems in place, and it's all kind of humming by itself in a lot of different ways now that it was not at this point last year. So
That's an interesting turn, by the way, is to go from, because a lot of times what happens is like someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got an opportunity for you to read 100 ebooks or 100 books rather,"
yeah,
uh, and uh, and for you to say, because a lot of times what happens to us who are entrepreneurial minded is, "Yeah, I could do that. I can. That's
100%.
going to be tough, but I could totally do that." You stepped back though and said, "Oh, you know what? Turns out I'm human and I need things like sleep. So I probably should, rather than try to do it all on my own, I'm going to build a system so that I can still profit off of it, but someone else does all the work."
Yeah, yeah, and it's it was less of the it was that thought process and less of the I'll profit, somebody else will do all the work. I was like, if I can make money and all my friends can make money,
Yeah.
then I'll feel less isolated in the new place.
There you
We
go.
can all go travel and see each other.
That's a much
Uh,
better way to frame it than what I
but
did. Yeah.
I do get to profit off of it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, an important part of a business, profit.
Yeah.
The
That's always
so
been my downfall, by the way, in all the businesses I've started over the years. The companies I've founded or whatever it was I was taking on was that I tend to be the linchpin in the whole
yeah,
system. So if it's going to fall apart, it's falling apart because I fell apart.
yeah. That was something that's interesting thing to bring up as well, because I had the thought a couple years back of like, how am I going to future proof myself and my job? Because AI is coming for AI voice and everything else going on. And so it was kind of a commitment to myself to like diversify how money is coming in, even if it's not a like gangbusters, like the dam is broken, here's all the cash
Yeah.
situation, but kind of for once in my life being patient and just committing to being in process, however ugly that may be at times. It's I mean it's at least what I've learned growing up in the entertainment world is like we're told being in process is the sweet spot of artistic creation or expression or whatever it is, and never really knew what that felt like until really being in like building a couple of businesses on accident at the same time.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, you're always in process.
Yeah. 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 I think there's an important lesson there for anybody who might be listening, author, entrepreneur, or otherwise. Really, like we said, authors these days have to be entrepreneurs. It's just
Yeah,
kind of the rule. Uh, but that idea of how do you future proof your business? How do you build your business in such a way that you're the least important part of it?
yeah, yeah. And it was I have to credit Clint Greenleaf, who is the head of Content Capital here in Austin, and he had we had gone out to lunch and I was just kind of asking him questions about running a business and all of that stuff. And he's like, well, you want to think about it like if you could sell this, you're building something that you could sell down the line, if that's
Right.
something that interests you. And so now that really shifted my perspective of like from I am the product, I am auditioning, I am singing, I am kicking my face, I am doing whatever it is, to now, okay, what's bringing people in is me, but
Right.
now how can I also build something that, like you said, everybody else is everybody else is doing the work, but it's
But
yeah, it
that's
doesn't.
not quite true. We both know that's not quite true.
Oh, no,
Like
no,
you,
not at all. It's and I think my assistant Sam, who is a total powerhouse, she would also say as much credit as she deserves and as I give her, she would throw it right back because it really is a team effort to get anything across the finish line.
yeah, yeah. So you've been developing systems. That's what you said, right? That's what you're.
Trying to, yeah, it's not been a pretty process. It's been pretty clunky, but it's uh I like it because I like numbers and data and I like iterating and trying new things and seeing kind of how it'll change the output. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I. It's not that I dislike numbers and data. It's that I loathe them and don't want them to exist.
well,
Uh,
it's a good thing you're an author then too. Then you're a writer.
well, it's really funny because I mean, I part of my background, I was an engineer for a while, and so math is part of your life. It just
Yeah,
is. And I'm not really crapping on that, but it's not. I'm not even going to say I'm not good at it. Like when I need to be good at it, I can be good at it, but I
yeah.
don't want to be good at it, so I drag my feet, basically.
Yeah. Hey, there's a good business lesson in there too. You figure
True.
out what you're good at, but you don't want to be good at. Find
Right.
somebody else good at it.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's why that's the kind of idea behind, I'm involved in this thing called Author Anchor, which is for helping connect authors with VAs,
Hmm.
author assistants. And that's kind of the premise, right? There's things that none of us as authors do. I say this may not be true. Most of the authors I know did not get into this to do the business parts of it. Some people come into it, they discover that part, they fall in love with it, and almost to the point of like the writing is secondary. That's not me. I'm not that writer. I came in to write the books, and so I don't want to do all the other things. I just ended up doing all of it, and I showed a proclivity for marketing and things like that.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of stuck in it.
Yeah, you can once you figure out how to do the stuff and you've put yourself out there in that way and anybody knows that you do it
Right.
even halfway well, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I should put that out there now.
Are there aspects of your business that is it that are like that? That turns out you're good at it, but you'd really rather not be doing it at all?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, bookkeeping side of things, I really like to know what's happening. I need to know where I'm at, and a good snapshot of where all the different branches of Tim Heller Creative are going. But so I've started to slowly start outsourcing that. Did had a not great accounting company when we first moved down here, kind of messed some things up, and so I've been doing my own taxes for the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And this year was like, I'm not putting myself through this again. So that, and then the honestly running like a CRM and marketing emails and all of that kind of stuff, just the cold outreach, because I am a lot better in person than I am through a cold email. I feel
Yeah.
like I can meet people where they're at, and I really enjoy learning about new people and listening to them. So
Right.
it's both of those things. Those were the first two projects that I had Sam help me out with, was like the CRM and getting some marketing funnels going that didn't make me want to die.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you handle marketing for this business?
So for voiceover stuff, social media is a big aspect of it. I've found a lot of success in just like back in 2022, we had just moved into our house. I was recovering from a pretty big back surgery and um, I was just kind of feeling creatively like drained. And so
Mm.
for New Year's 2022, I just said, I need to get back in the habit of just making stuff again, creating anything and just in the practice of it. So if I have a dumb video idea, I'm just going to make it. I'm going to take 10 minutes to just like chart it out and shoot it, edit it, and send it out into onto Instagram or TikTok or wherever it was, and forget about it and just see what happens after a year. And
Yeah.
during that year, I started getting a lot more traction in voiceover work, and so random people reaching out for that. Um, but that's only one aspect of it. So there's that leg, and then the cold email outreach, which is cringy and none of us like it, but it works, to a certain degree. And so that's capturing some new clients and building new relationships there.
Yeah.
Conferences and getting to know people in different industries, local meetups like where I met Brian, who got us introduced.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really that, and sharing what I'm doing, what
All
I'm
sounds very
creating.
familiar. Sounds
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
like,
all the
yeah.
parallels are there. You kind
Yeah.
of have to be everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once.
That's right. Yeah. Which is exhausting. Do you get to like a burnout stage at any point?
Yes, and something I'm experimenting with this year is how much can I get done without burning out completely?
Yeah.
And so it's adjusting my mindset around all of the different branches of THC and what we're taking on, really trying to be patient with myself and how my wildly ADHD brain works and is or isn't organized, to kind of move through things with a little bit more grace and agility so
Yeah.
as to not burn out. And knowing a lot of that has come down to me saying no to things, or finally, or the process in which I go from it's okay, I'll just do it, to here is this task, here are the guidelines, let me know if you need help,
Right.
and shortening that space
Right.
significantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's the same. Yeah. Man, I got seriously burnt out in 2023, and so it's been a reset for me for 2 years now. But
Wow.
the primary thing has been like, because it derailed me on the writing for a while.
Yeah.
So, that's bad because the writing is not only my source of income, it's me. Like if I'm not
Yeah.
writing, I don't exist, or I shouldn't exist, or I don't want to exist. So yeah, so it's been a kind of a slow comeback, but I'm getting back in gear. But it's mostly about leaning away from all the stuff that sucked my energy without providing me a really good, return on my investment, and
Yeah.
leaning in on the things that maybe didn't give me as much ROI, but in addition to marketing me, also energize me, like doing Substack and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
What is that process of, I'm like, I don't want to say like, how do you get out of writer's block? But it's in that process of like, because I resonate a lot with that, of what you said of, if the writing's not there, I'm not there.
yeah.
How do you, I feel similarly when I feel that creative block of I'm not creating anything that is really me, or I feel like all my work is stagnant, or just that block. What are some ways that you find inspiration, and how do you,
What?
have you
Whose
found a
interview is
system?
this supposed to be, Tim? Who
I
do
like
we?
to ask questions too, Kevin.
Look, here's my thing is this. Like, I don't actually, I've never actually experienced what I think most people refer to as writer's block.
Yeah.
I definitely went through a period where writing was much more challenging for me. Here's what I think is my trick. I mean, this is what's helped me. Is first of all, you got to have stuff that you're creating that has nothing to do with trying to make a living, that has
Mm.
nothing to do with trying to get ahead.
Oh,
It's purely the creative work, right? And unfortunately, I mean, I think we get into a drag where, like, if I got to write one more word today, yeah, I think you can kind of get into a zone where it's like even the thing you love starts to feel like torture. So
yeah.
if you don't step back every now and then and play, like, play. I mean, sit down and do the stupid video or
Yeah.
or I'll write, my Substack has almost nothing to do with my fiction. It's just purely me talking to my audience, and they love it, and they buy the books when I promote them, and so that's great marketing. But I write that Substack as a reset for myself every week, and that's
That's
helped a
so
lot.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It is that pressure of I don't know. I'd love to hear, and this doesn't have to be on this episode. This can be at our next coffee
We can,
date.
yeah,
It, uh, I
always come
found
back right
that
on.
when I decided to go full time in VO and realized like, okay, this income has been outpacing my day job income for X amount of time. It's working. I'm going to do this. Did you feel with your writing that sense of like, oh shit, I gotta do this? Or did you kind of come into your writing career already like, okay, I know that I need to have a couple things set up that are low stakes and fun for me that really feed my soul in order for me to get this, you know, the money making work?
Yeah.
Or how did you kind of discover
I
that for
don't know, man. It's so, I mean, first of all, when I came in, I was already making a living as a writer doing
you? Hmm.
copywriting and marketing work, right? And plus other things. I had other aspects of my marketing business. But um, so the advantage I had was that the fiction was the fun thing I was doing on the side. So like I could keep myself
Okay.
energized about the other work I was doing because I was writing my fiction sort of on the
Yeah.
side. And then when I took on roles like I became the director of marketing for a company called Drafted Digital, and they're kind of known in this space, and I'm representing them. I'm the face of that company. That started to eat up more and more of my bandwidth, and I was still writing my books on the side. It's almost like, in some ways, Tim, it's a little bit like having this other thing that requires all your attention to sort of make your living and make your stakes. uh Having the creative work you do as an outlet from that makes the creative work better,
Yeah.
makes it more fun,
Yeah.
I think. I
I
don't know.
agree. I've never had it like a purposeful. I'm just curious with other creatives because I feel like, acting teachers or other actors will say like, yes, this is my process. I've had the same process or routine for
Right, you do hear
how
that,
I
yeah.
handle things, and I've just never resonated with that. I can't keep a routine to save my life. It's not that I don't, it's not definitely not for lack of trying, but
Right.
it's all of the creative things are more organically happening. And then you look back and you're like, oh yeah, all
Yeah.
of that, that makes sense why that happened
Are
that
there
way.
things you're doing for the creative fun of it? Is it what's the creative fun stuff
I
for
was
you?
thinking about that as you were saying that. I was just like, yeah, I'm definitely not writing anything. But it's hanging out with you guys has definitely made me be like, all right, Tim, just get out of your own way, sit down and just start. But I feel like the things that I've been working on that kind of get me excited that aren't the money making things right now are actually in a more entrepreneurial way,
Hmm.
or like in a more entrepreneurial sense of some of the consulting that I'm doing with some companies is starting to kind of overlap in a really cool way where both companies actually would benefit from working with each other, and
Yeah.
or one company would benefit from working with a different part of my life that's like a part of my personal life or family life that would really impact that in a positive way,
Yeah.
not just for my family but for everybody else who's dealing with whatever they're going through. And so I really like that puzzle of putting the right people in the right place, bringing people together and creating something that way. And so that recently has been my like, oh yeah, this is a really fun thing.
Yeah.
It's my little side project. So, or
Yeah,
side project.
that's legit. I mean, that idea of I'm known as a connector
Hmm.
in this business, and that's that. What I haven't done is figure out how to profit off of that.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know how to
that's
make
what our
money on
next
that.
coffee chat will be about. We'll figure out, all right, so we need money.
Yeah,
How do we
yeah.
connect people and have them pay us?
Because I do have these people in this space do come to me and say, I'm trying to do X, Y, or Z. do you know who anybody who does ABC? Could you make introductions? And and yeah, I almost always can and
Yeah.
will, right? But it's not like I feel like a heel if I ask, I'm a bit,
I'm gonna have 15% finder's fee
yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Pay me 20 grand and I'll connect you with this company that you could have just looked up online. But it's a little
You're
bit
gonna
more
spend
than that, right?
$500 with. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit more than that. I mean, you're making connections and you're helping, ease things along. But and I have had a lot of great opportunities come to me because of that willingness, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you do get known for that, and so you get people who pursue you and ask you for your help, and then when they need something that they think you're uniquely qualified for, but you get pigeonholed. You would probably get pigeonholed as like, well, I need somebody to narrate this for me or whatever, where
Yeah.
you might be better served personally, your business might be better served if you could, integrate them into this process that you've created or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Such is life. Uh, so you mentioned hanging out with me and David and Johnny and kind of thinking about writing something. Is that something you're looking to do? You're wanting to do some writing?
You have emboldened that toxic white straight male trait of I could do that in me
Oh yeah,
in a healthy way
yeah,
of not in the sense of like, oh, I could write like they write and have that same success. Not by any stretch of the imagination, but more so just starting to write um as an outlet. Like you said,
yeah.
as business has gotten busier, I've had to systematize or start systematizing my creative process, which has never happened before. And so I'm learning how to tap into that creative space in my brain and what I need in order to activate that on purpose instead of like, oh, hey, random idea, this works, great, let's go with that. But more
Right,
so sitting down and having that more Pressfield-esque process of like, great, now we create, let's do this.
right. Well, the good
But
news is that once you get to that point, you start creating processes and automating. Now you can actually you can onboard people to help you expand your business. You know,
yeah,
that's
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 the
the
next big step. It's
yeah,
we're in talks with bringing some more people on, and it's more so me really getting organized in the sense of like, what do I actually need help with, so I'm not wasting my money or
that's
time
right.
and not anybody else's time.
That's right.
Um,
You got to have
because
that figured out. That's what I've learned in doing the whole VA thing. And when you're ready to bring people on, you should talk to me because I
yeah,
happen to represent a company that does that. But uh, but that's the key, right? Is like there's no sense. I get asked all the time, like, how do I know if I should bring someone on? When do I know
yeah,
I'm ready to do that? And the answer is different for everybody, but the truth is like if your business isn't automated, then there's no point. If can't you shouldn't be asking yourself, how am I going to afford to bring someone on? What am I giving them? Those are
yeah,
the wrong questions.
yeah,
If you're going to expand your business by bringing people in, you need to say, I've got this piece and I've got it
exactly.
so automated that I can do it, but I need someone else to do it so that I can go automate the rest or go do the other part that's more important to me.
Yes,
So,
100%. And that's where I'm at right now is that we're I'm working with Sam to look at everything across audiobooks, VO, consulting, all of that stuff, and being like, okay, what is working really well? Audiobooks is kind of cooking. Awesome.
mm,
We know that the next big step for us is just volume. That's the next goal, is that we can handle volume. Now it's just going out and talking to publishers and authors and independent everybody and letting them know like, hey, this is what we do. We're not the cheapest, but we also are tapped into really great talent, and we are also not the most expensive. Like some companies starting at like 5 to 8K for an audiobook. So like we're here to be fair and to nurture everybody, you know.
yeah.
But it's
You are
exciting.
talking
And
to the right guy, by the way. If you're looking for
yeah,
volume
yeah,
and authors of books, have you met me? We'll chat.
No, I did my own snooping on that, and I know you've already got audiobooks, but it's
No, no,
uh
not just my audiobooks, man.
yeah.
I'm tapped into something. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
things happening in the background that I think I've mentioned to you a little
Yeah.
bit about, but there's a lot of opportunities there. But just the authors in the circles that I'm in, audio kind of has been the last thing people thought of for the longest time
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they're the expense of it. So here's the great thing about ebooks. It was the great democratizer for publishing
Yeah.
because no overhead, just takes basically the same tools that your computer came with can help you publish
Publish.
that book,
Yeah.
right? And so services like Draft Digital and others came along to make it even easier. But audio was always that thing that we knew was necessary, but was always too out of reach for people who weren't making any money on their books.
Yeah,
But
it's an interesting thing to be learning about right now in terms of the authors and publishers' perspective on spending money on books,
yeah,
uh, being turned into audiobooks, and also all the additional tools that are available to people. Like uh, Audio Cupcake is a site that a friend told me about that will automatically master things to the ACX specs as a
oh,
narrator.
that's
But
interesting.
and I've listened to it, but it compared to the system that we've put in place versus that site, it does a decent job, and I imagine it does hit benchmarks, or else it wouldn't exist. Um, but some of the audio sounds a little more compressed or canned, or
Mm,
not the same as what you'd get out of the HarperCollins or Hatchet or any of those other publishers, or if you're working with a talent with like a real pro home studio setup instead of just a processing stack. But
yeah,
and that's not judging any of the actors who are making bank doing audiobooks with their own processing stack.
yeah,
There's room for us all.
yeah. There's so much goes into it, man. I I've done exactly one audiobook and it was so hard.
It's part of my brain likes it, and most of it really struggles with it. I did a long like lit RPG book that had like 30 characters in it, and that was fun. But it was also like my brain the whole time was like, my gosh, I am spending so much time in the studio versus how much audio is going to be finished after this, and I
Yeah,
feel like I'm going to explode.
yeah, yeah. I do. I've been asked for the past decade or more from people if I would do my own audiobooks. And I want to. I truly do. I truly think it would be great, but we're gonna have to figure something out, man. Because
Yeah,
it's so much of a time investment. It's like okay, I would much prefer, and I think my readers would prefer that I write more books.
yeah.
So there's a little bit of a trade-off there, but whatever. Hey, man, I mean, I've got the gear, I've
Oh
got
yeah,
the
at some point,
knowledge.
make it
We're,
happen.
yeah, yeah. Uh, well, look, we're at time, but which is astounding to me because it just flew
Yeah, I feel
by.
like I blinked in
You just
two
got
seconds.
on. You just
I
got
know.
here.
If
Uh,
only we lived close by to one another to
we're
talk
gonna
again.
have to grab another cup of coffee soon. Yeah, I'm gonna give a free plug to Red Horn Coffee and Brewery here
Yes.
in the Cedar Park area. I should tell them. I did about 2 years ago on a podcast. I actually, as a joke in the middle of the show, I did an ad hoc little impromptu ad spot for the coffee shop that's like right outside my neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, I mean, they're gonna love that. And I actually ended up recording an ad spot for them and we tacked it on to the end of the episode. And I shared it with them, and I thought, oh, I'm getting some free coffee for sure on this, right? And they're like, oh, neat. I'm like, what?
758, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I didn't even get a free latte out of that.
Oh.
But yeah, I think I'm single handedly keeping Red Horn in business because I keep
Yeah, I
sending
think
everybody over.
I'm helping fund an expansion for sure
Yeah.
at this point. I think I started going about 2 months ago. It was like once every other week, and
Yeah.
then now I'm there a handful of times a week, and it's great.
Yeah. Love it. Great, Great breakfast tacos. Great.
Great coffee. Can't
That's
speak to
Red
the beer
Horn
that I'm
Coffee and
drinking
Brewery
anymore,
in
but
Cedar Park, Texas.
yes.
All right, man. Well, look, we're going to wrap up. Where would you like to send people to find out more about you and your business? What's a good place
Yeah,
online?
you can go on social media. I'm at Tim Heller Creative, all one word everywhere. On LinkedIn, you can find me Tim Heller and find our Audiobook Bonanza page. That's the name of our audiobook branch at THC. And follow along there. We're trying to make it a really good time for everybody all around, not just in the workflow process, but we want to provide engaging content, fun audiobook info, and some really good audiobook memes as well. Keep things light and fun.
Outstanding. All
Yeah.
right. Well, the AI that is now the producer of this show will grab all those show links and put them, or show all those links and put them in the show notes below. So
Yeah.
to
Thank you
everyone
so
paying
much, Kevin,
attention.
for having me on. This has been a
Of
blast.
course, man. No, I've been looking forward to this one, and it's been great getting to know you. I can't wait till
Likewise.
we can do some more. Uh, it's good to have coffee buddies, man.
It
That's
is. It really is. I find, especially like this is the first time in a while since moving down here. I've got some VO friends that I get to see, and this is
yeah,
the first time I've had like regular folks that are, you
yeah.
know,
It's also kind of good to branch out a little because, like, yeah, there was a lot of authors in the Austin area, by the way.
yeah.
So we should have no trouble finding you that volume you're looking for. But the it's interesting, and I had this kind. I think maybe I was talking to you about this. Like, it gets a little rough sometimes when you're. I have trouble making friends with regular humans because
Uh-huh.
this part of my life, the publishing side of my life, is has taken over so much. Like it's what I think about, talk about, eat for every meal, every single day. And
Yeah.
so it's a little tough to have a conversation with somebody who wants to talk about, well, you like F1 racing and stuff like that. You've got varied interests, but and I can sit and talk to somebody about that, but it's always going to come back to the books for me.
Yeah.
So it's a little tough to have a relationship with a normal human being when you
Yeah.
when you work in these fields. So, all right, man. Well, thanks for being on the Wordslinger podcast. Glad to have
Absolutely.
you here.
Thank you for having me, Wordslinger Podcast.
All right, everybody else, thank you for tuning in to the Wordslinger podcast. And as always, you're going to want to stick around for the note at the end, which I'm probably going to record in the next like 5 minutes after this call ends. So I will see you on the other side. Take care.
You know, I've always believed life's too short for boring stories. So I write the kind of books I'd want to read. Action-packed, fast-paced fiction. Adventure stories with characters you'll wish you could hang out with. And twists you'll never see coming. From ancient mysteries to modern-day thrills, my books take you on a wild ride. And trust me, I've got plenty of rides to choose from. So if you're ready to escape into a world of danger, discovery, and intrigue, it's here waiting. Find your adventure at kevintumlinson.com/books. Not responsible for sleepless nights.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Tim Heller. Great guy. I'm kind of, he's got a great business. I'm looking forward to learning more about what he's doing. There were some things that, I learned in this chat that I didn't quite know at the beginning. So it's good to learn more about people, Take an interest in people. That's an important aspect of business and life. If you are going to be successful in any way, you need to learn how to be interested in people. A lot of us focus a lot on being interesting to people, and that's not a bad gig either. But, if you really want to have breakout success, you should learn how to be interested in others, because that's where you start to see opportunities. I was thinking about this, by the way. We talked a bit about branding, and I think this was in the interview because we chatted for a bit afterwards. So forgive me if this wasn't in it because I can't quite remember. But we had talked a bit about like building a brand and sort of, how we, I don't know, represent ourselves to the world. There are people who kind of held on. They want some anonymity. Okay, so now I realize this was after the interview. So you did not get to hear any of this, but we were talking about Johnny B. Truant specifically. Not his real name. I happen to know his real name, but it kind of came to me by accident through some resources. But I had asked him one time, he and I went out to lunch together one time, and I said, hey man, we've known each other for years now. What the heck is your real name? And Johnny actually explained to me, is like, I never tell anybody my real name, even once I get to know him, because I've been Johnny for so long that's just who I am. He says, except to my wife and my kids, my family, they all know me as someone else, but the rest of the world knows me as Johnny B. Truant, and I like it that way because it kind of helps me separate. It helps him keep that part of his life separate from the rest of his life. And the parts that matter, most to him. So we talked about that, Tim and I, a little after the call. And I took a completely different route with that because I had decided, you're going to know me. You're going to get to know me. You're going to know my name. That's what I went all Walter White on the whole thing. But on top of that, though, I had determined early on that when you know me, you're going to know me. You're going to know who I really am, not not the persona that I craft for you to know. There is a little bit of that, but there is a little bit of that in every kind of interaction or relationship you have with people. You're going to craft a persona. I'm different with you than I am with my friend Dave Dodson, or with my wife, or with my mom. I have a different kind of relationship with each segment of the people who know me. That said, though, all those pieces are still authentic me. I'm not putting on a show just because it's you. I'm showing you an aspect of myself that I have crafted and prepared to be me when I'm with you. Maybe that makes no sense. It makes perfect sense to me. Everyone represents themselves differently depending on the scenario they're in. The real test is, who are you when you're by yourself? And I can tell you, and you can believe me or not, but this is who I am when I'm by myself. I am the stuff that I talk about, the things that crack me up, the bones I have to pick, the perspective that I share on this show, in my Substack, in the notes at the end of my books, even sort of a lot of the stuff that's in the fiction itself. It's all authentic me. It's all exactly who I am set out to be. It's the way I portray myself to myself as well. And just like there's a me that I project to you and to my friend David and my wife and my mom, there's a me that I project when it's just me. You could think of it as the me that I'm projecting to God. And sometimes that I get a little vulnerable. There's times where I'm hurt, or there's things like that. But in general, like the stuff that I think of as being part of, I'm just going to call it a mood board for me. I'll talk about that in a second, but that stuff is, I don't know, it's consistent. There's shades of things, there's notes of things, but it is overall consistent. If that's confusing, here, maybe this will bring it around. So, my wife, Kara, has been doing interior design work with clients lately. She's been kind of veering. I think she's done with real estate as being like the thing. She got into real estate so that she could learn more about it and grow from it. And it's been tremendously beneficial to her. And she's still holding on to her license, but she's always wanted to be an interior designer. And there's aspects of the work she's been doing there that are actually, we've discovered, useful in other careers and other industries. One of those has been a mood board. So for the clients she's working with now, she looked at their spaces, took a bunch of measurements, photos, references, and things like that. And what she did was, after talking to them, getting to know them, she created these mood boards for that space that included, a range of colors, and, like a spectrum of color that fits the mood, items of furniture, knickknacks, things like that might go on the shelves. So she did that to not only show them the sort of design that she's going to implement in the space, but to indicate to them the kind of mood that design is going to create, and her interpretation, in effect, of that client. Now, she has done this sort of thing for years. She did one for me. You could call it a brand exercise, but it really wasn't about the brand. It was more about like, look behind me if you're on YouTube. This space that we're in, this is an outcropping of that. And in fact, I can look around and I can see every single color that she picked is my palette of colors that she created for me is in this backdrop, including even the little pop of red over my shoulder, which, by the way, is it's a little cigarette can, I think. What's it called? Prince Albert in a can. Have you ever heard that gag? Yeah, Prince Albert in a can. Look that up if you're too young. But anyway, it's a pencil holder on my desk back there, on my drafting table back there. But the wood grains, the wood tones, the dark blue in that little blueprint of the Enterprise behind me, the Enterprise itself. And then there's the sort of, there's the gray color on my walls. There's the black of my microphone. There's all these things that are all part of this, not just the color, but the items you can see over my right shoulder. And sorry, folks who are listening to the podcast instead of watching on YouTube, but you can go check this out. But like over my right shoulder, there's not only the bookcases, but there's there's a microphone, a vintage microphone up there. There's cameras, there's projectors, there's vintage coffee bags, by the way. Let me just move my head. You can see the vintage coffee bags right up top. There's typewriters. There's all these things that are all part of a sort of persona. You can call it a brand, and I think that's accurate. And I think that authors could use this, and Kara could certainly help you to craft this, and it's very useful. It's been very useful to me because the mood board she created helps me to decide how I'm going to project myself as I interact with the world. So like this show is an outcropping of that sort of idea. I like, sort of a Memphis guitarsy blues kind of thing. The Wordslinger podcast has that like slap guitar blues opening. If you weren't paying attention, when I do ad spots for myself or anything related to me, I tend to find a blues track like that. So that's definitely part of my gig, my shtick. But even things like leather-bound journals, and I've got a bright red Swiss Army pocket knife, and these blue and sometimes green coffee containers, and my earthenware coffee mug, and all this stuff. The stuff doesn't matter, except that it's a sort of an icon that represents an aspect of me and we'll say brand, because that's when we're talking about this in terms of business, that's what we're really talking about. But I think it's important for us to know, like, or have an idea of like what sorts of things, what's my mood board. It'll help you in a lot of ways that you don't even realize. It'll help you in shaping your brand, but it can also help you in figuring out, like, as an author, we'll say, or any business, if you are an entrepreneur of any stripe, having something like this not only helps you with identifying yourself to others, but it can help you identify who those others should be. So I'm looking for people who enjoy that bluesy vibe, that, sort of bourbon vibe, because I'm a bourbon drinker and I'm a Scotch drinker. So I want people who maybe they don't consume that, but they resonate with that as a vibe. They resonate with the energy of, my color palette, the mood that it sets. That's the mood they're looking for. I'm contemplating doing something like this when it comes to the books. Like, maybe there's a way to generate a mood board for each book I do, or maybe just the series or the books in general, that'll help me with tailoring my approach to my clientele, my readers. All this stuff is, I don't know, it's just, it's important, but it's difficult to quantify. And so I think writers and entrepreneurs sometimes overlook this aspect of things. I get asked about branding all the time because of the nature of my career, the work that I've done for in marketing and that sort of thing. In fact, I just did an interview with Dale Roberts from Self-Publishing with Dale. He has a podcast he's doing on behalf of Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors. And it was all about brand. And I think I discussed some of this same stuff, but people ask me all the time. It's like, well, what should my brand be? How do I establish a brand? What's an effective brand? Things like that. And when it comes down to it, your brand needs to reflect an authentic version of who you are. You never want to lie through the visual language and through the language of your brand. You don't necessarily have to tell the entire story of you, but the segment that you're telling to this specific audience needs to be honest and authentic. That's very important. That's how you create super fans. It's how you ultimately how you build a brand that is memorable and that could even outlast you. So these are all things to consider. Yeah, it's such an interesting topic. I used to not be interested in this at all, but it's become more and more fascinating to me over time, because I'm starting to realize just how important a role this plays in not just your business, but in your life. I have said for years that everything is marketing. Every relationship you have is marketing in one form or another. And the whole point of marketing is to attract the right, in the case of authors, like you want to attract the right reader at the exact moment that they're ready to buy the thing that you've produced. That's what marketing is. But marketing on a more personal level is you want to establish, you want to provide, you want to create relationships in which you are providing to the other person what they need most from someone like you, and at the same time attracting people who can bring to you the things that you need most. We have relationships with each other because we need each other. That's just the way it is. They shouldn't devolve into being entirely transactional, but the transaction is part of the package. We should always be looking at other people, trying to figure out what they need, not so that we can manipulate them, but so that if we can find a way to solve their problem, it cements our relationship, right? So the more we can do to serve each other, the more enriched our own lives become. That's just a rule of nature. So that's this whole idea of branding. That's where this comes from. That's where it's coming from me. I don't know that this is necessarily the way others think of branding, but I think of it as like, what's the most authentic way for me to present myself in this specific aspect of my life so that I can serve this person and be served in turn. And, as a writer, it's, how do I brand myself as an author, and how do I brand this book, and then market that to the person who is most likely to love it and buy it and read it. And then not only that, but go off and become an evangelist of me and my brand and my books. These are all things. This is what marketing is. Marketing is about the relationship. Good marketing, excellent marketing comes down to relaying to your target market, your reader, your customer, whomever that's going to be, the experience that they can expect to have when they interact with what you're creating. And your brand is part of that. You're going to have, when you interact with Kevin Tumlinson, you're going to have a bluesy bourbon, typewriter experience that's got shades of green and gray and blue and red. This may or may not make any direct sense to you, but if you start kind of getting into this, you're going to figure this out over time. A mood board would be very helpful to you in this. If you are looking to do something like that, you should reach out to me. I haven't run this by Kara yet, but I know she loves to do these things. I'm sure we could. She's done this for people before. I think she's starting to kind of branch out and do this on a professional level. I.e. getting paid for it. And I know she would be willing to help you out. So anyway, isn't that fun? I hope that you are enjoying stuff like this. Let me know. Let me know what you think of the format and everything here. I'm trying to relax about all this stuff a little more. It's been real useful, by the way, to kind of offload a lot of the production stuff to AI. It's been helpful. But anyway, make sure you are subscribing, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Make sure especially you're sharing these things with other people that you think might get something out of it. And thank you for swinging back around when you do. And thank you for being here if you're just tuning in for the first time. I appreciate you. Anyway, those are all the obligatory things that you must say at the end of a podcast. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. And if you're listening to this in the distant future, I hope everything has been going great for you and just continues to go great. So God bless you, and I will see you all next time. Take care.
Wordslinger.